But at the time that we were launching it or thinking about this idea in early 2020, it was just that. It was an idea. And like, this is the story of how we launched that over a weekend to turn it into an $8 billion media impression channel and $30 million sales funnel. So a little bit of background on me. I've worked at Drop for 3.5 years. Joined as the director of marketing and now the VP of marketing. I was their second marketing hire and basically wore a number of different hats during my time here. Basically everything from growth marketing to product marketing. You can see from product marketing at Zynga and Wattpad. Worked on Words with Friends, worked on the launch of Tap. And then previous to that, I worked at American Express in a bunch of different roles across merchant services, card marketing, and these international and digital teams. It was probably all of the experience from these different roles that brought me to Drop when I chatted with Derek and he talked about the problem that they were trying to solve in this space in fintech with loyalty, with user acquisition. It just felt like problems that I had encountered before and could potentially help solve. And after a couple of years, like from larger companies, smaller companies, thought it would be really cool to, apply some of what I knew and test it out in an environment like Drop. So I joined when there were about 15 people, and it's been an amazing ride ever since. A little bit more about me. I'm into a number of sports. And if you're interested in any of these, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to chat with you about anything marketing related or anything about rock climbing, whiskey, golf, whatever. Anyway, so let's move on to the main event. So what we're going to cover today is basically 3 lessons learned from bootstrapping Cardify. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about Drop first, how it's related to Cardify. And the story today is really about how we launched Cardify over a weekend with basically $0 and 3 part-time people. So I'm going to be speaking about the journey that some of my colleagues took, but this is kind of a story that repeats over and over at Drop all the time. Just kind of having, an idea, very little resources in terms of proving out the idea, but then once you do, being able to like accelerate that and make it grow into something exciting and really big. So really excited to share that journey with you today. So I saw in the chat that some people do know about Drop, but for those of you who are new to it, Drop is a rewards platform, very much like Rakuten, Air Miles, and Aeroplan. One of the things that maybe differentiates us is that we're mobile first and we use transaction data to help deliver a more personalized experience. So we use that data to help, make sure that we're tracking and delivering points to our members, as well as making sure that we're giving our members a more personalized experience based on their spend data. Some of the reasons why our members love us is because outside of just rewarding people based on shopping, we're rewarding people for the things that they're doing every day. So when we launched, we were mostly a mobile shopping app, but now we're rewarding people for their thoughts in the terms of surveys, rewarding them for their entertainment time in the form of games. We've got a couple like their free experiences where you don't need to like have done any kind of action to like earn points. And we've got a number of different ways to engage with us. We've got a spin wheel, flash deals, and other engaging features that keep people coming back every single week. And then some of the features we've added recently is rewarding members for their linked card data. So when you link a card, you have an opportunity to earn more points, get more exclusive offers, and as well as an opportunity for us to deliver those points to you more seamlessly. We're really popular with millennials and Gen Z, I think a little bit because of the brands that we carry on our platform, as well as the places that you can redeem on your platform. So we work with over 500 brands. We have direct relationships with most of them. And we're really excited about the offering that we have in both Canada and the US where we operate, giving our members an opportunity to earn at the places that are the most valuable to them, and then also redeem them for rewards that they love. So with all of this, exciting content, both from the earn side, on the burn side, we've been able to grow to be one of the largest mobile rewards platforms with over 40 billion in terms of payment volume coming through our system every single day. And we're really excited about kind of the network that we've built over the last 3.5 years. So moving on to Cardify, This is a new line of business that we launched just earlier last year. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we built Cardify and how the whole idea kind of came to be. So with Drop kind of as our mobile platform to reward members for everything that they're doing, empower them financially with rewards for both their shopping, their thoughts, their entertainment. It provides us with a lot of data in terms of how people are spending their time, how are they spending their money, and that's the kind of the data that we're using to power Cardify. So every single new customer that joins Drop adds 150,000 new data points to Cardify that lets us aggregate, anonymize, and then create a really rich set of insights. Today, Cardify is one of the largest data sets in the marketplace. We've got a 75% Millennial and Gen Z penetration, which is a really difficult market for a lot of retailers, businesses to access. We've got over 6 million linked cards, a look back window of 5 years in terms of the amount of transaction data that we can look at. And so it's a really engaging and rich data set that doesn't have a very large set of competitors in the market. So that's what it is today. But at the time that we were launching it or thinking about this idea in early 2020, it was just that. It was an idea. And like, this is the story of how we launched that over a weekend to turn it into an $8 billion media impression channel and $30 million sales funnel. So early last year, we had all this data. We knew that it was really rich, really engaging. We used it internally ourselves to help inform our decisions, but we knew that there could be an appetite in the marketplace for us to share this with other people and for them to help businesses, institutional investors make better decisions. But we couldn't figure out, like, how do we share this with other people? How do we prove out the value of our data? Would they even be interested in this? And like, how could we get this qualified list of leads and roll out this data product with the fewest number of people and the least amount of investment possible? As you can remember, like during last year at this time, everyone was kind of pivoting, like the economy had kind of fallen through as a result of the pandemic. And so we wanted to keep people in our organization focused on the things that would help us drive revenue, stay afloat. So we wanted to test this idea, but we didn't have a lot of resources to figure it out. So if you remember the marketplace at that time, the pandemic had obviously a significant impact on pretty much every sector within the economy. Retailers, businesses, investors were all desperately seeking insights that could help them get an edge over their competitors. This was the first time something of this magnitude had happened, and no one quite knew what to look for. No one quite knew what the economy was doing and what to do in terms of making business decisions to help them survive what was a very difficult time for many people. One of the things that we noticed at the time was there was just a Google Trends keyword spike in terms of coronavirus, consumer spending, and the economy. However, precise information wasn't readily available. It was pretty sparse. There were like reports that were at least several months old, and it wasn't really what people were looking for at the time to help make decisions for the future. And we were looking at our data to help inform our own decisions, and we realized there was a lot of data in there that could potentially satisfy a need that wasn't being met by the market. So what we brainstormed was this idea of like, maybe we could fill that gap. Maybe we could provide the what and why behind consumer spending. And we all thought internally, hey, I think this is a great idea, but how are we going to get there? How will we even launch in the market? Who can we even like tap in our company to help us out with this? And how can we even be perceived as a trusted voice within the marketplace? So in terms of some lessons that we learned as we were doing this, one of the first ones that I'll talk about is, giving away your value giving away some value to show your value. So in terms of our initial approach, what we thought we could do is maybe launch a proof of concept where we could test interest in a new self-serve data product. There were other data products that were out there, and we thought we've got a really interesting panel of millennials and Gen Z. We've got deep transaction data where we could create compelling indexes related to consumer trends. And maybe what we could try was launching an MVP of a website that included a couple of these dashboards, and people could come and take a look at those data points themselves. And we wanted to just test whether this would be interesting or not. And so March 21st of last year, over a weekend, we had a couple people, basically a designer, a data analyst, and a product manager get together and put together a couple of indexes based on some of the highest traffic categories that we thought people were interested in. So things like travel, retail, grocery, gas, and we created this mock-up of a website and then launched that over the weekend, and then launched basically what we called the COVID-19 spend index. So this was an index that tracked basically the overall economy, as well as 9 industries that we thought were interesting to both investors, as well as categories that were interesting to large retail categories. We kind of added a couple of filters that we thought would be very interesting based on gender and age, and then put it up there on the website for people to explore and to see if it would draw any interest. So in terms of results from this first launch, it was okay. We thought it was really incredible, but the reception was, mild. It was kind of interesting, but there wasn't a real, I guess, strong application to the indexes. It was interesting kind of from I see what's happening, but a little bit soft in terms of the reaction. And one of the things that we realized that we wanted to do, and what it wasn't meeting, was capturing emails and leads of people who we wanted to have further conversations with. So this kind of leads me to my next point in terms of bootstrapping, bootstrapping a new line of business, which is like building an MVP, adapting and moving quickly. So while we launched that first website, and we got a little bit of validation that there would be some interest, we realized that this wasn't probably the end product, and we needed to move quickly and learn from what we had seen so far. This is just a quick diagram of something that I really love related to MVPs. Basically, I feel like so many of you have already seen this, but the idea is to build something that isn't just like, like what you're trying to build here in this example is like something that can transport you from A to B. In the first example, tires, like a chassis doesn't really get you from A to B, but you can continue to build things that people might love and in smaller and incremental ways and try to get you there. And so I really love this diagram to kind of speak a little bit to building MVPs, adapting and moving quickly. So what we decided to do in our revised approach was use the transaction data instead of providing just indexes, creating compelling case studies that were aligned with consumer trends. So we relaunched that MVP website with a couple more insights. And then what we decided to do was to create a free email with updates and basically the information behind those trends, and create more stories that people would want to read and to better understand what they were already seeing, and put them behind a gated subscription to collect email addresses so that we could build that audience of key targets to build relationships and do outreach. So April 11th, not even, I think, a month after we had launched that initial website, we basically updated our website with these case studies. So as you can see, like some of the first things that we launched with was content around the food delivery industry. How are they faring during the pandemic? Then we launched with trends that we were starting to see as we were looking at exercise and gyms. And we saw that, Peloton had a gigantic sales boost during this period of time. You saw that in the stock market, and we could provide the information behind what was happening with Peloton just from the spend data from our audience, and how were they comparing to other people in the health and fitness area. Zoom's stock was also going through the roof. And so we were able to go behind the scenes and provide a little bit of that story. We also saw things like mobile gaming take off, buy now, pay later, faring very well in this economy. And then we were also able to provide context on things like how was COVID impacting everyone's income? What were we seeing across the board, and how was it impacting spending? And we created this weekly email subscription that not only included the indexes, but the key takeaways that anyone should take away from the trends and the stories that we were seeing every single week. What we also did at the same time was iterated on the website. So that early version that just included the indexes was now including rich data, included all of the reports. And then what we did was just added a gated subscription for people that access the content. That helped us acquire a number of new contacts in a very short period of time, because you kind of tease them with a little bit of content that suggested that we knew much more, and then we were able to impress them with the data and the stories that we were creating around some of the biggest news trends out there. So after we revised and iterated on that initial idea with this new content, after about a month, we had over 600 people subscribed. It was a mix of investment and enterprise professionals, which we were really excited about, because that was exactly the target audience that we were looking for. Really high engagement in terms of open rates. It felt like people were enjoying the content. And one of the things that we were excited about was it felt like we had validated a differentiating factor in our data. It felt like both this income data combined with spend data surveys that we were able to run through our Drop app was a differentiating factor, and was an exciting way for us to marry both the things that we were seeing happen in the marketplace, as well as validate them through the Drop app in the form of surveys and questions to help paint that larger picture about the economy. And then one of the things that we're really excited that I kickstarted was really great conversations with some large institutions in the market: Goldman Sachs, Peloton, Deutsche Bank, UBS, as they were seeing this data roll out, about some of their, maybe some of their portfolio, as well as their own companies. They became really intrigued at the data set and what more we could provide in terms of insights to help inform their decisions, as well as other decisions that they were making at the time. So from there, after kind of getting an idea of where interest was, we were able to put more fuel on the fire and build momentum in the areas that we felt like people were the most interested. Through those conversations with institutional investors, we were able to figure out a little bit more what people were interested. So we were able to provide the story behind some of the largest things that were happening in the market. So the Wish IPO, what was happening with Airbnb. And then on top of that, we amplified some of those stories through paid and organic LinkedIn ads. And that helped expand our network even further. And then one of the other scrappy things that we did was our CEO and our C-suite started to do interviews, first amongst themselves and other investors that they knew in their network. But this gradually translated into other interviews with Bloomberg, with Cheddar, and the insights that they demonstrated through their knowledge in those conversations gradually translated to larger and larger opportunities. So by August, it was crazy how much momentum had built over that amount of time. We were quoted in a number of publications from Bloomberg, TechCrunch, Forbes, CNBC, and the types of things that these people were saying about Drop was just incredible. It felt like they really understood that we were trying to provide the whole goal of what we were trying to do at the beginning, which is provide the story behind the data and the story behind what you were seeing in the marketplace. It helped us accomplish those goals that we had set out at the beginning, which was, to build trust in the marketplace, to really be perceived as a thought leader in this space, and helped open up a number of new conversations with potential clients that we wanted to work with in this data space. So that leads me to kind of my third point, which is that you don't need a lot to do a lot. This might feel like it's a pretty basic kind of learning. However, it was kind of incredible to see how much we were able to accomplish with just a couple things, a couple resources. This effort was really just the part-time job of 3 people, a data analyst at the beginning who was, diving into our data, seeing what kind of things could work, a product manager who was helping us put together like what could the case studies look like, what could that what could the journey look like, and then a designer who helped us pop up this website basically over the course of 2 weekends. And then we use very simple, affordable tools that I think anyone here would have access to. MailChimp to just get us that gated subscription journey. We use Webflow to put up the website, which basically is like a no-code website that allowed us to skip any kind of engineering work, any kind of like additional time that we would have probably needed to take if we were going to pull people from our product and engineering team. And then in terms of the videos that Derek was shooting, he just got, I think, a $77 microphone from Amazon and just upgraded his kit. So there wasn't a lot of investment really in terms of tools and upfront to get the website launched and to get these articles posted. And then what we did over time is selectively invested both time and money in what worked. So as we were seeing momentum pick up on these stories, we invested in LinkedIn ads. We invested in more interviews, which is just Derek's time, and then invested more in those stories. And so at the very beginning when we launched this, we basically used like $0 to launch it. And then as we identified opportunities over time, we decided to spend more money. So by August of this year, so let me just go back for a second. So by August of that year, when we saw this type of success, it felt like we had really validated a path. And so at that time, we decided to invest more in a PR agency that could help us amplify some of the content that we did. We also invested in a writer who could help us out with writing more stories, creating higher quality stories, and to create the content on a weekly basis that we just weren't able to keep up with. And then also invested more in LinkedIn ads at that time. So by the time that we had this validated path, we decided to invest way more into that business. But on our journey there, we basically spent almost no money, just all these simple tools that I think anybody could afford within their own company to launch what was a new line of business, but is now like a very large pipeline for our new data business. So just to recap some of those lessons that we learned, none of them are, I think, rocket science, but really, I think just simple guideposts that we use to help guide our decision-making. So giving away value to prove your value, just building enough and then adapting quickly. So not sticking with something that wasn't working, but moving quickly and learning from what you've done. And then just staying really, really kind of slim in terms of resourcing at the beginning until we validated a path, and then investing from there. So those were some of the lessons that we learned. And in terms of our journey kind of moving forward, this is helping us build an over $170 million business. I think we're just at the beginning. We've started really with that kind of performance marketing and building data insights. We're now working on that business intelligence and data licensing part of this business. And the market research part is like in another part of the business that's all kind of being built on top of what we've done here with Cardify. And in terms of kind of next steps, this is just a shameless plug for our senior B2B manager role that we're hiring for right now. They'll be working very closely on Cardify and other projects that are like this. So basically, we're looking for a B2B manager who is scrappy, who has ideas, who would want to test ideas out quickly, and then help us validate paths that we'll invest in and help grow. So I feel like the Cardify journey that we took is very similar to some of the things we'd love to see in a new senior B2B manager. So if you feel like this journey, this kind of experimentation, this type of thing appeals to you, would love to speak to you. So find us on Lever, join drop, or check out the new B2B manager role at that link below. I'll definitely send that out to Sarah after this presentation, so you can definitely find us there. So I think that's it for me. Would love to, first, thanks for listening to my presentation. Thanks for hearing a little bit about our journey. Would love to maybe stop here and maybe give everyone a chance to ask any questions they might have about Drop, about Cardify, or our journey from basically from just an idea to launching that entire Cardify business.
Thank you so much, Catalina. That was awesome.
Thanks. Sorry, I was a little out of breath towards the end. The twins are just taking away all my lung space.
Like you're making two people. The fact that you're able to do this at all, we are so grateful to have you. I know there were a couple of questions early on about just about how you marketed that first website. Like, how did you get those first that first little bit of traffic there to even kind of close those 600 new subscribers? So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so we have a great promoter in the form of Derek. Derek knows like so many people in his own community. So at the very early days, it was just a leadership team posting these articles on LinkedIn. We didn't even have like a Cardify LinkedIn section yet. It was just all of our executive network posting to their networks and tagging people who we thought would be interested. They're very well connected in the VC industry. Those people ended up sharing with others. As we saw the traction there, we thought, okay, maybe we should build a dedicated section on LinkedIn for Cardify. And then we started putting all of our reports, indexes, and just tried to make sure that as we were doing it, it was a little bit of newsjacking. Whenever we saw any trend come up, we were like, oh, let's provide the story behind that. So for example, Wall Street bets, any kind of thing that was happening, any major IPO, we made sure that we were commenting and providing some data behind it. And that really helped drive a lot of traction. And then as we saw articles get more clicks, we would put a little bit of LinkedIn money behind it. And then as we saw more traction, we added just more paid LinkedIn ads behind it as well. And so those early days were really just our own network reaching out to our own network, and those conversations led to more conversations. And then that gated paywall that was driving everyone back to Cardify for more insights like that just helped accelerate those conversations.
That's awesome. I love the like distribution strategy there too. So many times people are like, we made a thing, and then it's Leah's asking, how often do you work on new ideas like this at Drop?
So that's like a lot, actually. It's actually one of those things where sometimes we have to like stop and say we need to focus a little bit more on the things that are foundational. We actually just got out of a hackathon last week, and so I probably saw another 20 ideas like this last week that of which I think at least 5 are probably going to end up in our product later on this year. It's amazing how much can be done over the course of a couple days when you're both motivated and then like giving everyone within the company the resources to tackle problems that they see as the most important. So yeah, happy to say this is like a frequent thing. When I first joined Drop, whether I should have done this or not, I was the person making our Facebook ads for like the first couple months using Keynote of all things, just because I could do some animation and I don't have any design or animation skills. So I would say stuff like this happens at Drop all of the time. We're always trying to test things in the leanest way possible. And then when we see a little bit of success, like, so just so you know, if they were coming on to join in this B2B role, we're not saying you need to work with no resources. Since we validated this path, we're obviously spending a ton of money on PR, on LinkedIn ads. There's on building websites around this. So it's not like, hey, we're doing this lean forever. You're expected to work with no resources. But as we test ideas, yeah, this happens quite a lot where we're just testing with like the bare minimum and seeing what happens.
And I think even as like startups get like Drop is well funded, but also it's nice to see well funded companies that are still scrappy and experimental and aren't just like taking those VC dollars and kind of throwing them all over the place. Like it's a good signal. Another question: do you think that all tech companies should have product resources for new marketing experiments?
Ooh, I love that question because, I mean, as someone in the marketing department, I would love this and I would love more of this. I feel like ideally that's the case, but I feel like it shouldn't stop you from trying things that are different and that you believe could work. I just believe that, especially these days, for example, there were no engineers or anyone building the website for this project. We used Webflow, and there's like lots of things that can make, like, I probably should not have been designing any ads. Like now there's like a lot of things where you can just insert some copy, insert a couple images, and create a lot of professional looking things at like low to no cost. And so I think ideally you have a product resource to help you out with marketing experience. That would make my life and a lot of people's lives easier. But I think you can also do a lot with very little, and still make it look professional, and you don't need a lot to validate that something is going to work. You just need like small signals that you've got something working, and then I think that can help you make the case for more resources and more dollars, and to create that scale.
Yeah, I feel like that's always been my experience. You almost have to you have to prove that you deserve to bring resources from another team onto the marketing team, and that the no code tools that you were using, the experiment that you were actually getting kind of some data on whether or not Cardify would work, and then you prove the case. That's awesome.
Exactly.
That's so great. Can you tell if there are folks here who are curious about Drop or curious about the role, can you tell us a little bit about like what it's actually like to work on this team?
Sure. So a little bit more about the role. It's going to be on the marketing team, but working really closely with our business development team. This role is a net new role, so there hasn't been anything like this before. So we're really looking for somebody who's a self-starter, who's got a little bit of B2B experience, but also willing to be really scrappy and try new things. We'd love if you could, like, what we would love to do is just tell you a little bit more about our business and how we operate, but then for you to kind of take the reins in terms of how you think will work best. You'd be working with a really great internal marketing team that works across a number of verticals like growth, product marketing and lifecycle, brand and design, and partner marketing to help you learn the ropes, as well as provide any background on how we market, but also working really closely with a very scrappy BD team who will also point you in the direction of like the largest opportunities and give you kind of free rein to figure out how to grow, how to do lead generation in the areas that will be most impactful to us, and certainly ideas like Cardify are things that we want to what's the right word for this? I feel like my pregnant brain can't find words right now, but nurture and then grow. So there's like a heavy appetite for taking risks, failing fast, and trying new things to find the right nugget that will grow into the next business that's like this.
That's very cool. And I've known Paul, who's the CRO at Drop. I've known Paul for years, and he's a fantastic leader. And I don't know, I feel like it would just be a great crew of people.
Oh, yeah. Paul's amazing. I love working with him. He's like always pushing us to think larger and bigger. So you'll get to work with a seasoned leader who's led his own company, has deep knowledge in both the sales and marketing space. So I'm a little sad to be walking away from this for a year while I grow my family. However, I know that the new person that's coming into this role will be in really great hands, because you'll be working really closely with him and with an amazing sales and marketing team.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, you're making two people. Like, that is the coolest possible thing that you could be doing with your year.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it myself.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to toss them in the chat. We'll keep it open for a little while after we stop the video feed, and I'll drop the Twitter handles in. So if you have any other questions, you can feel free to tweet them out, and we will absolutely respond and help. And if you're curious about the role, feel free to take a peek. I've pinned it at the top. And if you have any questions about that too, please feel free to toss them in the chat.
Thank you again for the opportunity, Sarah. This has been amazing. And thank you, everyone, for listening to my presentation.
Thank you so much for being here. That was so great. We'll be also sending out a replay. So if you had to step away for a moment and you came back, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Awesome. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Catalina. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.